Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And with the international break, it's a perfect time to take stock after the first 4 games and the transfer window to assess where Chelsea are really at. Is the investment in the window been the right way of approaching things? Should we have addressed areas that we didn't address? Where's it going wrong on the pitch? You know, sitting 12th on the table right now. It's only 4 games, of course, but a familiar position for us. We're used to that one considering we finished there last season. But, you know, things on the pitch have not been great, to put it lightly. There's been some positives in the performances, but the points on the board don't reflect what we've seen on the pitch, in my opinion, apart from Saturday against Forest, which was an absolute disaster. But there's so much to talk about with Chelsea, as always. Thiago Silva responding to fan criticism. Is Pochettino getting it totally wrong? There's so many things to dive into, guys. So make sure you smash a like on the stream. Make sure you get involved in the chat, as always, and subscribe to the channel if you are new round 10. You can't already see, I'm delighted to be joined by Lawrence. Bro, thank you for coming, as always. Not been the best start to the season. I remember when the fixtures came out, sort of looked at the first 4, and I'm thinking, should be on 9 points, really. There should be 3 wins in there, personally.
At least, yeah.
Three wins.
And then we got that draw against Liverpool, didn't we? So you'd hope for 10.
But we are on, obviously, 4 points.
Yes.
I think, 1 win from our opening 4 games. Not where we wanted to be. But, I mean, before we get into the window and sort of all the ins and outs and stuff, what have you made of sort of the start to the season in general? I mean, I think it's certainly been better than last season in terms of performances, even though statistically it's our worst start since 1995.
Brilliant. I didn't even know that stat. Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't really know what to make of it all, because I hate the way he's like setting up with Cole at left back, Chilwell at left wing. Like, obviously you're doing the rounds for the TikTok at the moment. Like, it's just like I don't get why we're doing it. At the same time, on Saturday, I got it a little bit to some extent, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, we played the identical team against Luton and we won 3-0. I get Luton is bad, I get that. But still, Forest ain't that much better than Luton. So I'm like, okay, you beat Luton 3-0, and also you barely have any other of your players fit to start. Like, I get what everybody's saying, like Palmer was on the bench, Mudryk was on the bench, Madueke was on the bench. But realistically, were any of them fit to start on Saturday? I'm not sure they were. The only complaint that for me, in terms of, I'm not going to complain that much about those 3 not starting, but that still doesn't mean you couldn't play Chilwell at left back and Ian Martin on the wing, which is what he did in preseason.
Yeah.
That's for me the most infuriating thing. Like, I get Nkunku only got injured in the last preseason game, but still, I can't comprehend how any manager in the world would play a certain way and a certain system for in pretty much every preseason game. And then as soon as the league campaign starts, you play something different every time. I just can't understand how that happens. Like, why would you do that? Like, even if I disagree with the way he's trying to set up now, right, with Cole left back, Chilwell left wing, even if I disagree with it, if you want to do that as the manager, at least work on it in preseason and don't just randomly start doing it when the season starts. I just find it baffling. Honestly, I genuinely can't put my finger on it, why he's doing this and why he thinks this is the best way to go. But at the same time, obviously, injuries are hampering us. And I know a lot of people want to be like, oh, that's an excuse. Yeah, but it is. Like, you know, like it is an excuse, because, like, of course it makes a difference when you have 8 or 9 players missing through injury, and like, what, 5 or 6 of those could be in the starting 11. Like, obviously that is going to impact how good you are. Like, let's not even kid around the bush, no? But it still doesn't excuse losing against Forest. It still doesn't excuse losing against West Ham the way we did, because we don't concede because, oh, we're not good enough. Sure, good enough in front of goal maybe. And against Forest, you could maybe apply that because, you know, we didn't score ourselves. But against West Ham,
sloppy errors.
Exactly. We missed the penalty. We scored the goal. We conceded from a ridiculous set piece where Conor Gallagher forgot that he was marking someone, essentially. And then we just got countered like a complete bunch of amateurs. And even when you look like the goals that we concede, every single one of them is an individual error. Every single goal we've conceded this season, other than maybe like the second or third West Ham one, is an individual error. And like, yeah, we can criticize the manager for that. But at the same time, I just can't believe that this keeps happening. Like, we have a completely different squad, but still the identical issues. Dominate games, fail to score, make one bad mistake, concede, and then don't know what to do. And it happens even though we have essentially a 23-man squad of new 20 players. How can the same issue still be there? It's just baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, when I seen Chilwell's comments, about things are improving, but when he's saying that we still need to add that final bit, we just need to be more clinical, put our chances away. Just thinking, we've been hearing this for years. When's that going to change? I understand it's 4 games in, it's a load of new players. It's going to take time, absolutely, for sure. But that time shouldn't exclude fundamental basics of the fact that regardless of whether it's a new manager, regardless of how many new players it is, we still can't put the ball in the back of the net and make the most of our chances. The biggest concern for me, I think, mate, from the opening few games is that it seems like Pochettino's whole pre-season was built around Christopher Nkunku. And now that we don't have Nkunku, it's almost like we're not really sure what to do. Because I'm looking at it and you think he's really... Obviously, Cole Palmer's come now, but Nkunku's really the only proper number 10 in the squad you would. So we've got people that can play there. But in terms of natural out-and-out 10, best position, he's the only one. Now that he's missing, all right, we tried Chukwuemeka there, and he was doing quite well, in fairness. Started the first 2 games pretty decent. I'm sure he could have done an okay job there, but it just feels to me that there's not really a plan B. Obviously, we weren't planning for Nkunku to be missing for the best part of for the remainder of the year. We weren't planning for that, but it didn't look like we had any idea of what the alternative was going to be now that he's missing. Now, I can understand the Chilwell left wing thing to an extent in the first game against Liverpool. Perhaps you're doubling up down that side to try and combat the threat of Trent, the threat of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Fine. Yeah. But he's then seen that and thought, that worked quite well against Liverpool in that circumstances. And you know what? It did. We played pretty well against Liverpool. But then we carried it on against West Ham. And then we carried it on against Luton. But why do we need to carry it on? Why could we not just look at that as purely circumstantial? And as you said, if you want to go with that system, then Ian Maatsen fits that much better than Chilwell does. Maatsen, I don't think Maatsen really as an out-and-out left-back is that great. I'll be honest, he's much better.
I'll be honest, I haven't really seen him play as an out-and-out left-back.
We haven't seen him. So I think he's better up the pitch. But if you want to play that sort of left-back at left wing, Maatsen is much better at that. He played there all pre-season across the front line. Yeah. All the minutes he's had coming on this season, he's been playing in the front line. Yeah. And yet, Maatsen hasn't started a single Premier League game. I don't understand that. But another thing is, though, maybe it's a bit of a damning indictment of the attacking players right now. Forget Cole Palmer, because he's literally just arrived at the club. But there's Pochettino, when he looks at these attackers that we've got in Mudryk and Madueke and stuff, and does he look at the attackers and think, actually, maybe they're not doing it in training, or I don't trust these guys yet, or they haven't got enough about them yet to be starting, that I have to start a left back in that position over them. That for me would be a major concern if he's genuinely looking at that and thinking, Chilwell is starting ahead of these guys because they're not delivering. I don't feel they deserve to start.
I'm sorry, that's not an excuse. He had those players for all of preseason. If he noticed that, then he should have made it clear that he wants another first choice winger. Whether that would have been intelligent or not is a different question. But if I'm not 100% sure whether what you're saying is necessarily the case, because Madueke has been injured until basically now, and Mudryk, we found out, has also had injury issues all summer, even throughout preseason, which explains why some preseason games he started and some he didn't even feature in, which we didn't know at the time, but have kind of found out now, and that kind of makes a little bit more sense now, to be honest. But if that was an issue for him, then he should have just got someone else in. And you said about Nkunku being the only out-and-out number 10. Mate, I would even argue Nkunku isn't even a real out-and-out number 10, really, right? Because in preseason, Poch used Nkunku more on the left wing than he did as a 10 anyway. Even until Nkunku got injured. Now, who knows what he might have done in the league campaign if Nkunku had stayed fit? Would he have played him on the left? Would he have played him in the middle? Probably on the left until at least Mudryk or Madueke were fit to put Sterling on the other side. And obviously Chukwuemeka plays a part too, and I understand that completely. But it's still, like you said, you can still do Maatsen, because one other thing, it's not only the fact that Chilwell is struggling at left wing. That's almost simplifying it a bit too much. But not only is Chilwell at left wing, he also doesn't have support from the left back behind him. How often have we spoken about that? Even when we had out-and-out wingers playing on the wing, we were saying, yeah, but they, for some reason, like we had whoever, like remember when Aspie was playing left back? Yeah, we won the league with that once, but even other times, Aspie was playing, we were like, yeah, but then the winger is struggling for like support when it wasn't Hazard because Hazard didn't really need it. Or on the other side, we said the same when like Ivanovic was playing, or when we had to play like Chalobah or Christensen at right back a few times. Then we're like, yeah, but the winger doesn't have the support from the fullback. But that's the problem that Chile is facing now as well. Regardless of whether Chile isn't a good left winger, he also has Kobel behind him, who never overlaps, who never really helps him. Exactly. So Chile is always in either a 1v1 against their right back or against the 1v2 or 1v3 because he never gets support from the fullback. Like if the fullback overlapped, and I know Kobel isn't suited to that. Kobel shouldn't be doing that anyway. But that's where the problem comes in terms of what Poch is picking. Because then he could drag a player away from Chile, and that would also make Chile's job a bit easier. I personally find, and I'm not trying to say that Chile has been good at left wing. I'm not trying to say that in the slightest.
Well, you wouldn't expect him to be, though, would you?
Sorry?
You wouldn't expect him to be good at left wing.
No, first of all, absolutely, exactly like you say, you wouldn't expect it. But even still, I still think some of the criticism, especially on Twitter, has just been way over the top because I'm like, he could have literally had 2 assists in the first 5 minutes against Forest. That first cross after 1 minute, Sterling should get on that, really. And then he had another one to Jackson. I can't remember if Jackson put it wide or didn't get to it, what exactly happened. But he played 2 good balls in the first 5 minutes. That could both be assists. We could be 1-0 or 2-0 up in the first 5 or 10 minutes. But even still, like I say, I just think which winger thrives when the left back behind them never even basically goes over the halfway line. That doesn't happen. Like that's... Unless you're like a Hazard or a Vinicius or a Neymar that's so crazy good that they can handle every time being up against 2, they will struggle. And Chilwell isn't even a winger. Of course he's going to struggle at left wing without support, man. So it's just I don't understand the decision in the slightest. And yeah, injuries play a part in it, but they don't explain all of it.
No, mate, it certainly doesn't. But you know what's weird though? Like I'll bring these stats up. Like I think Pice posted them yesterday they got them from the Chelsea website. And like, I know, obviously, you know, stats only tell half the story, and actually the reality of the situation is that we don't have the points on the board. But if anything sums up Chelsea, it's that second bullet point there. Most big chances missed. Like, we created the most big chances. We've missed the most big chances. Got the third highest XG. We're expected to concede the third least amount of goals in the league. We've had the most possession, and we've had the second most passes completed. Yet we somehow have only won 1 game this season. Now, when you look at that, you think, actually, do you know what? We've actually played pretty well. And do you know what? Apart from Saturday, in certain games, like in most of the games, we actually have played pretty well on occasion. But I don't want to go back to the transfer window, but Jackson's raw. He's going to need time. Pochettino saying, you know, he's kind of snatching at his chances a little bit, like you would expect a young striker to do that's not fully developed into his game. But do you think we missed the trick not signing a number 9? Now, I know the market has not been great this summer. And yes, Harry Kane would have been great. We were never going to get him. Osimhen was going to cost an absolute fortune. Was that really the right way to go? How good would he have been? But do you feel that we maybe missed the trick not trying to get I don't want to disrespect Jackson by saying a proper number 9, but do you know what I mean? Like an sort of an out-and-out 9 that can actually score goals. Because in Jackson, you've got someone in potential who could end up scoring a lot of goals, but right now isn't going to score a lot of goals. Do you feel we've not, I don't want to say we've messed up because we spent a lot of money, and like I think we're all very pleased with the window and kind of excited with the players that have come in. But my big concern has always been, despite the excitement, where are the goals coming from in this team? And I can't answer that question still because they're not coming from anywhere.
Yeah, I don't fully think so, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because think about this. Like, even when you see these stats here, how many of these chances would have been created if we didn't have Jackson?
Yeah,
without Jackson's running, without Jackson's pressing, without Jackson's movement, how much of that would have happened? Imagine we had a static Vlahovic stood up top. How many of these chances even get created? Because how many of the big missed chances did Jackson miss? 2 or 3?
Probably one. No, not many. I mean, the one against Forest at the weekend, obviously, when he
and one against Liverpool in the first game where he had the cut back and put it over.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 big ones from Jackson, I remember. A few other ones that maybe he could have scored, but not in terms of sitters, right? Like, a lot of other players have missed sitters. Chilwell has missed a fair few. So how do you fix that? Well, play a proper attacker at left wing. That would help. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's already one start in there. Enzo missed from the penalty spot. That's big XG. Like, that has nothing to do with who the striker is. It's picking who the penalty taker is, if anything. But like, obviously I understand where you're coming from in terms of where the goal's going to come from, but I don't think that's just a number nine issue. And I've always felt that, like, as much as Havertz wasn't good enough, or the players that we had before Havertz weren't good enough, it's never the fix is never just playing, just having a different or a better striker. Because people said, "Oh, imagine we still had someone like Diego Costa." I'm like, well, yeah, but would Diego Costa without Hazard and Fabregas do much?
No, because mate, those are elite creators. Like,
exactly.
And that's another thing, right? As well. I mean, I don't want to like sort of start. I don't want not moaning about the window, but when you look at sort of elite creators, right? Obviously, in Nkunku, you could maybe categorize in. You could put into that category, but I still sit here now, and I can't for the life of me understand why we didn't even try and sign James Maddison. Like, you look at the impact.
Well, you found out, didn't you? Like, the report that we didn't want to sign anyone under 20, over 25.
I don't know if I want to believe that. I'm not sure, but do you know what I mean, though? Like, I still feel, yes, we've got Nkunku, he's obviously injured. I still feel that we are missing like an elite creator. I still feel that we haven't replaced Cesc Fabregas in the squad. Someone that can get on the ball.
Enzo can be that, but the problem is when you have no one ahead of him.
Is he? I don't think he's that, but he's not. I don't think he's like. I think he's fantastic, but I don't look at him as a Fabregas type of player. Yes, his range of passing is great, and he can pick out good passes, and he can dictate play from the middle. But do you know what I mean? Like, someone, particularly against a low block, where we cannot break low block sides down. Like, we just can't do it. We haven't been able to do it for a number of years. You look at someone that can pick a pass, like a De Bruyne, like a Cesc Fabregas. You know, I look at James Maddison, and I just think he's that guy, and we could have signed him for 40 million quid. And I'm not saying it would have been the answer and everything would be fine now. And, you know, chances are I probably would have been shit at Chelsea because everyone we signed.
Yeah. Or he'd be injured now.
but do you think like we still lack an elite level creator? And like, I'm not saying that the guys we've got can't become that, but the issue when you sign so many young players that need time to develop is that you've not got anyone that is proven as a player that can go on the pitch and do that. You might get it from the likes of these guys for a couple of games, and you might not see it for 5 games. And that's the reality of having so many young players, is that they're going to be inconsistent and they're going to need time. Whereas if you get someone in like a James Maddison, you know they're not going to need any time. Just comes in, bang, that does the business. I mean, I'm not criticizing the transfer strategy, but there is a slight concern on my part that we've kind of essentially signed a load of young players and we're just banking on their potential that they're going to become as good as we think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I would have taken Maddison as well, but you got to ask yourself the question, especially because Spurs got him done quite early, didn't they? So essentially before Nkunku got injured, would James Maddison have been willing to join Chelsea at the time of Nkunku being fit? Because would James Maddison have expected to start regularly? And then when he's picking between us and Spurs, and he's like, okay, I'm going to be Spurs' main man, especially if they lose Kane. Or am I going to go to Chelsea where I could play second fiddle to Nkunku? Would he have, like, you have to keep that side of the story in mind as well. And I don't fully, obviously I'm not saying Enzo is like Cesc, but I think Enzo can be maybe not quite as creative as Cesc, because Cesc was one of the best players at that in history. But still, along those lines, I think Enzo can do that. Because, I mean, what you've got up on screen, we created the most big chances. You can't say necessarily that creativity has been the major issue so far, because we've had chances. We've just not taken them. But I will also say, if you give Enzo, who is the creator, first of all, the last 2 games, we've essentially played him as a 10, right? So you also play him further up than you should do, because then he's so close to goal that he's kind of in the middle of the low block rather than in front of the low block. And when you're in the middle of the low block, it's much more difficult for him to find the decisive pass. You need to kind of be ahead of it to find a decisive pass. But also, even when he is there, because he only has attackers off the right and no one ever off the left. Even Jackson doesn't really drift to the left. That's another thing I don't fully understand. If you play with Jackson and Sterling, why is Jackson more drifting to the right than left? Surely because he has these winger instincts anyway, because he started his youth career as a winger.
He runs the channels well as well.
Yeah, no, he runs the channels incredibly well. Yeah. But if he drifts, he usually... First of all, he doesn't drift a lot. He stays central. That might be instruction. But if you don't have a real left winger, at least let Jackson drift a little bit sometimes to at least put anything on the left, because then at least the opponent has to worry about there could be something on the left, because the way we're playing, the way we're attacking, All you really need to know is the opponent. Well, make sure they don't attack down the right-hand side. You're kind of sound, right? Obviously, that can never work long term. So we're taking the creative players that we do have. We're taking attacking passing options from them by only having Chilwell on the wing. And we're obviously taking ourselves someone that is going to score goals, but also that's going to create regularly. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's
I mean,
a difficult one.
You look at Chilwell, and he's not going to have those winger instincts, like making that run, the ability to take players on one-on-one, that same passing range and all those sort of things. So, yes, you might get other qualities from him, but you're not going to get that directness and that sort of ability to sort of make something happen out of nothing, like someone like Mudryk can do, like someone like Madueke can do. So, you are obviously missing out there. I mean, look, when people go on about, we're used to instant success under Roman, but when people say that, they're fundamentally misunderstanding the fact that football's completely changed since 2003. Like, like you can't come in now, spend a load of money, and suddenly be instant contenders like you could back then, like we did. The Premier League.
It depends on which players you sign, right? Like, obviously, if we signed more 26 to 29-year-olds, you would probably be a contender straight away. But the problem is, like someone in the chat said earlier, we spent £1 billion and we don't even have 5 world-class players. The problem is, how many world-class players can you actually buy? Because they're all at top clubs that don't want to leave, that don't want to sell. Especially because almost all of them either play for Barcelona and Real Madrid, who, why would you want to go to Chelsea from Barcelona and Real Madrid if you start for them? Or the others play for Premier League rivals who don't want to sell to us. So that's obviously why the way we do it is to some extent also what we have to do. You have to get talents that can become world-class players in the next couple of years, right? That's what you have to do. And you pay obviously over the odds because of potential. But the problem, my biggest issue almost, and I understand that we all loved it, and I include myself in that. I enjoyed it too when Poch was like, yeah, we want to win this season. We want to win right now, blah, blah, blah.
Not ready to win right now.
Exactly, but it's not realistic.
No.
And him saying that makes the reaction from fans to not winning even worse. And I know people had a problem with Potter saying the opposite last year, but that's why I'm not sure if you were in the same boat, but at least I was like, well, Potter is right. I know people didn't like it, but Potter is right. And I'd rather the manager be honest and realistic than a manager tell me pure waffle and then it doesn't work out because it's not realistic and then everyone loses their mind. Because what benefit do I get from that? I'm not saying everything that Potter said made sense. His is what it is after the denied penalty against West Ham. Obviously, there was a lot of comments that Potter made that I wasn't okay with. But just in terms of general, from the get-go, talking about a process, things take a little bit of time. He was right with that. And now Poch is saying it too. And then I still see people sitting there 4 days ago, he's saying we want to win now. And now he's saying there's a process. Well, I'm like, well, it's your own fault if you believed him that we're going to win right now. Look at the squad. And you know right now that we're not going to win right now. Yeah, we should still beat Forest. Absolutely. But we're not going to win the league. And the only way we win a cup is if City go out early and we get a lucky draw. Let's be honest now. Like, we're not beating City even in a one-off game. Like, we'd have to be very lucky, and that can happen. Anything can happen in football, but you cannot go into it expecting it. So you need to also be a little bit realistic. Like, with the players we signed, with the squad that we have, we're not going to win right now. Like, that's just fact of the matter.
I agree, and I don't think fans do themselves any favors. And we're all including this at times. When you like in sort of the emotion of it all, but the reality is, like, the sooner fans can accept that this team is not ready to win yet and it's a work in progress and it's going to take time, then the better it's going to be for everyone. Because there's a realization that you can't suddenly look. This is not an excuse for not being able to beat Nottingham Forest at home, but you can't just expect to just drop a load of new players, essentially a completely new squad.
Yeah,
almost an entirely new
space of a year.
11, almost an entirely new starting 11, a new manager off the back of our worst season in recent history, and then expect it to instantly be a success. That's just utter stupidity. It's not going to be an instant success. It's going to take time. We're going to lose more games. We are going to lose more games. And these young players are going to be good for a couple of games and they'll be shit for a few games, because that's the inconsistencies that you get when you sign that many youngsters. But if we just have some patience, which doesn't exist in football, certainly doesn't exist amongst Chelsea fans either, then I think people will be a lot happier. Like, people go on about all this transfer spending, but that does not override the time that's needed for coaching adaptation and development, to run their course. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. You have to coach these guys. You have to allow them to develop. You have to allow them to adapt to the new league. Essentially, since Bowley's come in, we've completely, essentially, remade every aspect of the club in just over a year. Complete squad overhaul, which has been essentially unprecedented, you would say, in how quick it's been and the spend and how quickly. And we've just basically been operating like on a madness at the rate in which we've been buying and selling players over the last year.
Yeah.
We expect these to happen. And what people don't realize is that players are human. Like, imagine you run a company and you bring in 20 new people to work at that company. They're going to be
all have never seen each other before.
And all have never met each other before. They're probably going to be pretty shit to start with. Yeah. Some will have good days and then they'll have a few shit days. This is exactly the same with this team. You cannot.
Especially, sorry to interrupt you, but especially when things go against you, right? Like if everything's smooth sailing, and if we go a 1-0 up in the first minute against Forest, we probably win the game comfortably. If Enzo scores the penalty against West Ham, we probably win the game comfortably. But when things go against you, and against Liverpool, we needed that VAR decision to change the momentum. Without that VAR decision,
we'd have been done. We'd have been finished.
Even like not only did we need the 2-0 to go in, and then the VAR decision to turn it around. Like, it wouldn't have been enough to just remain 1-0 down. I'm not sure if we would have had the reaction then, but the VAR ruling out the 2-0 when we thought we were over and done. But then the VAR decision kind of bringing us back gave us such a change of momentum that brought us back really into the game. And that's the problem, that we keep making individual errors, because against West Ham, we went 1-0 down through to an individual error. I know we got a goal back and we should have still won, but it's also West Ham. Like, we should be capable of doing that. But you can still tell every time we struggle with it. And also, the more it happens, we struggle with it. You saw it against Forest, man. The goal against us happens 3 minutes after the break. The worst timing possible. And you saw the heads drop. There was no urgency in the first half as it was. But then in the second half, it just got even worse. But it's not surprising. And that's exactly when you feel the impact of having young players. Because when you have, say, a team full of players like Sterling in terms of their experience level, their success level in the past, that if you had 11 players like Sterling in terms of, you know what I'm trying to say, then you could handle going 1-0 down.
You know what you're getting.
Exactly. But if you've got Colwell, and if you've got Sanchez, and if you've got Dizazi, and if Thiago Silva you take out of it, and even Enzo a little bit, I would, because I think Enzo is a bit above the rest. But you're Caicedo making that error. Gusto is 20 years old. People forget that. Like 20 years old. Think about that. And then you have out of position wingers, out of position players on the wing. You have Jackson, who's still learning to be a proper striker, and in the Premier League, that's even more difficult than it is in La Liga. And he's also missing his almost partner that Poch had planned for him in Nkunku. And then you're kind of relying on Sterling, which is what happened the first 3 games. Let's be honest. We were relying on Sterling and Jackson's ridiculous work rate. The combination of those two we were kind of lacking for. But we can't complain about that when we buy a squad to do exactly that. And my big question to the ownership is still, not question, but it's like time will tell. Do they understand? Like, do they think that we should be able to win right now with all the new players? Or do they understand that these young players will take 2 or 3 years at least? And only then will we be able to see if they're good enough for it. I'm not sure if they get that or not. Like, they might understand it and they might be aware it's going to take us 2-3 years, but this is how we're going to try to go back to winning. Or do they actually think we should be winning now and they're annoyed that we don't, because they think we should be able to, because we spend so much money? But I'd hope they understand. Do you know what I mean? Because if they don't, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're stupid. I really don't. I think they're intelligent.
But I just think maybe because in baseball this seems to work, because they did the same with the Dodgers, where they bought a load of young players, and in the space of 2 years they won the Major League Baseball, they won the MLB. But that's not going to happen here.
That's not football, is it? Like,
exactly.
Really,
so I don't know if they're aware of that or not.
I still think like, look, I like this, but there's a huge element of risk in it, by the way, that like you're basically banking on the fact that these players that have been identified as very promising, talented young players are going to get to the heights that you expected them to get to. And sure, some of them will. On a pure numbers game, some will make it and some won't. But are enough of these young signings going to actually make it for the first team compared to not making it? And that's that's the big question. Like, look, we can talk about future success all we want. There's no guarantees that this is going to be a future success. We all want it to be. We all hope it's going to be. That the players have got the potential in them to make this a future success. But we're kind of just clinging on to the hope that they're going to develop and be given the time to flourish and reach their potential as footballers in order for this team to actually push on and be decent in a few years' time. Like we're basically basing it on the hope that these players reach the expectation that has been put on them by the scouting department. That's what we're hoping for.
Exactly. And in attack, we haven't even signed enough of these types of players that you're like, if at least some of them make it, that's good. Because in attack, we only have a couple. Like we have Jackson, Madueke, and Mudryk.
And Cole Palmer.
There's no one else.
Well, right? And Palmer.
Oh, yeah, true. I forgot. Yeah, and Palmer.
Yeah.
Now. But still, there's only like 4 players. So what if only 1 or 4 of them makes it? Then we're still not good enough. Like, just as a bit of a reality check, when you go back to, say, all of them being 17 years old, Mudryk, Madueke, Palmer, Jackson, and then you compare it to Callum Hudson-Odoi at 17. Callum Hudson-Odoi was 3 levels above all of them combined.
Madueke was playing was in the Spurs academy, was in the Spurs under 18s at 17.
Exactly. You know that, and
obviously players develop at different rates as well.
Absolutely, but I was just trying to use it as an example of proof. Being good when you're young doesn't mean you're going to be a good professional.
No, absolutely.
Not saying in terms of attitude. I'm saying in terms of you're going to have a successful professional career. Like there's no guarantee for that. Exactly like you said. That's why it's a gamble. And being good in your young days, sure, 17 is maybe a bit much, and obviously some of them that we signed are 19, 20, 21. But still, there's no guarantee for nothing. Like we signed Mudryk, he hadn't even played 50 professional games for Shakhtar or for anyone. Now all we've spent in the last 8 months, we've put him on the bench. Well, how is he ever going to develop if the guy never gets game time? Like
this is what annoys me. And then people judge him and say that he's shit based off 10-minute appearances coming on when we're losing and we're chasing the game. Like how are you supposed to? How can you judge someone on that? And how can you develop as a young player when you're given 10 minutes here and there? What's anyone doing in 10 minutes? Like what can you really do in 10 minutes? Nothing. How is it? Like, as a young player, you need trust from the manager, you need belief from the manager, and you need a consistent run of games starting. And if something goes wrong, you're not taken off. You're given a chance to put that right. You're given a chance to adapt to the game. And, there's no point like starting him and then he knows in his head that after 60 minutes, he's going to be the first player off the pitch. Like you have to allow them to make mistakes. You have to allow them to make mistakes. And like fans aren't patient enough to, look, I'm much more patient with Mudryk than I think a lot of people are.
Same, yeah.
Like I'm just looking at it and thinking, how are certain people calling Mudryk a flop when this guy's not even started 10 games for us? He's been here since January. Like,
mate, he doesn't have a total minutes of more than 8 games.
Yeah, exactly. And
8 months now.
But people completely misuse they don't even understand the human element. This kid's 21 years of age or 22 or whatever. He's only ever played in Ukraine.
His country's still getting bombed.
His country's at war. His parents live there. It's a new country for him. It's a new language. It's a new environment. It's new everything. And people are slating him because he hasn't instantly made an impact on the pitch. It's like, is this what we're doing now?
This is why we have such a high rate of flop signings, because as soon as someone's not great in the space of the first month, the fans call them dreadful. But also what I wanted to touch on is in terms of what you're saying, in terms of you need to let them make a mistake and still stick with them. That's my problem. Off the pitch, in terms of the recruitment, we act one way. And then on the pitch, we act like the complete opposite. Because like on the pitch, we are like, okay, we need to win right now. So if you're not good, you're getting dropped. If you're not good, you're getting taken off and we'll replace you. But off the pitch, we're signing players that need exactly what you said. But then on the pitch, we're not doing the same thing. And I'm not sure if that's Poch just doing himself because he's under pressure and he knows he needs to get results, or if that's even information that he had, like almost instructions that he had from above. He's like, okay, we need to win right now. And then you obviously need to chase that. But how do you ever get to winning with a young team if you don't let the young team develop? That can never happen. It is never going to happen. So like we act like we still have 28-year-olds that are known top class players and act like that, but we don't act like that. We act like that we should, or we shouldn't act like that. We need to act the complete opposite. We need to give them time, and then they will also succeed, because the recruitment team, in terms of signing talented players, they haven't been bad. They've signed players that have talent, that can become really good players. Now, they've signed a few players that are a bit too injury prone for my personal preference. But then again, it's like, if Madueke wasn't injury prone, would he have cost 28 million or 30 million? Or would he have cost 55? Because he probably would have cost 55 if he wasn't injury prone, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't injury prone, he probably would have been further in his career already at the age that he is. So it's kind of like, but then still people complain that we spend too much. So it's like, you gotta be aware of the details of the situation that is happening. You can't just say we spend 1 billion, why aren't we better? But look at who we spent the 1 billion on.
But also, that 1 billion is a nice figure for reporting, but it's taking into account money that might not even be spent, because
but even then it's still 900 million.
Of course it is. But yeah, in terms of like factually speaking, like some of that money might not even be spent, and also all that money has not been on the first team. Probably a couple 100 million has been on what is being described as development signings. So,
we haven't even developed the signings that are in the first team.
Yeah, no, it's kind of mad. But I mean, I don't. Do you know what, man? I don't think it's like I don't think it's complete doom and gloom. Despite what people like to say and what the like online people are saying, and that this is 4 games. It's 4 games into a new manager, 4 games into a totally new squad. Yes, we probably expected better results given the level of opposition. But if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, right? Liverpool is a 50-50 game, right? A draw, fair enough. We take that. West Ham away, we never win there. We've won there once with fans in their stadium. Obviously, we won in the COVID times, but with fans in the stadium at West Ham, we won there once. Luton, I think...
Doesn't mean we shouldn't have won every time.
No, and then Luton, I think pretty much almost every team will beat Luton this season.
In like when Luton are away.
Yeah, and then obviously the Forest game was a disaster. Even though they are slightly improved from last season, I think we did make it very easy for them. But I mean, in terms of like this is a back 4. I know everyone goes on about a back 5, but it is actually a back 4. I mean, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's a back 5. It is actually a back 4. What have you? I mean, sticking with that, mate. What have you made of the criticism of Thiago Silva from certain sections of fans? And obviously he bit back at a bit of criticism on social media on the other night after the game. I think rightfully so as well. I think people are maybe looking at him as a bit of a scapegoat. I mean, look, I think it's perfectly fair to make the point and have a conversation about that point. Is he being shoehorned into the team? And what's going to happen when Benoit Badiashile comes back? Is he going to play? Is Silva still going to play as often? But in terms of the Silva criticism, mate, what have you made of the criticism of it? Because I just think it's ridiculous for a guy that's done what he's done in his career. We can count on one hand the amount of shit games he's had for Chelsea. He's come into the Premier League at 36, I think he came in. He instantly adapted and it's been seamless, bar games against West Brom, and he seems to be the target of criticism from Chelsea fans. I don't get it. Yes, he's going to be slowing down, and yes, he's not going to perhaps be as good as he was in the previous years, but I think he's been pretty good in all the games this season. I don't look at any of the goals and think, oh, he's been at fault for them, or he's a reason why we've lost games. I mean, are you surprised that people are singling him out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just think it's people that don't understand football that say these things. Like they say, oh, he can't play in a back 4. Well, we're playing in a back 4. All of the goals that he could have done a bit better for, like the goal against Forest, he should have tried to not get megged and stuff. Also, one of the goals against West Ham, he could have done a bit better. But what happened in all of those situations? Someone else made a much worse mistake before him. Yeah. Against Forest, it was Caicedo. Against West Ham, it was Disasi. So, and also, like people say he's too slow. Mate, he's no slower than fucking Disasi is, and he turns around about 3 times quicker than Disasi.
But Silva's never had pace, though. This is what I mean.
First of all, he's never had pace anyway, but the guy next to him is quicker and slower in turning. So, like, Thiago Silva is not the problem here. The problem is playing Kobel at left back, and the problem is forcing Disasi into the team, which I don't understand. Like, Disasi has been, if there's been an issue in defense, it's been Disasi and Kobel at left back, not Thiago Silva. It's just baffling to me. Obviously, you can say Thiago Silva needs to be a bit quick at passing out from the back, and he's the marshal of the defense. So when we are playing like we did against Forest, where everything was so slow and no urgency, Thiago Silva should be the guy to change that. Absolutely. And that is criticism that we can stick towards him because, well, he's the nearly 39-year-old that's won everything other than a World Cup. And be the guy to tell everyone to play quicker, be faster. Like, that is your job as being Thiago Silva. So he doesn't do that, fair enough. We can criticize him for that. But everything else, he shouldn't have been criticized for. Like, it's a joke. Like, that is the least of the problems right now. Thiago Silva. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, I agree, but it's an interesting point now. When Badiashil's fit again after the international break, what happens then? Does Badiashile does he go straight into the team? Like, there's not really many games that we can rotate this centre-back pairing and get him in for some minutes. You know, maybe he plays in the Carabao Cup against Brighton, but there's not many chances for him to play. But, you know, as the season goes on, do you still see Silva and Colwill being that main partnership? Or do you think Poch, once Badiashil's fit and looking towards the future, Badiashile and Colwill is probably the long-term partnership at this club?
Well, it all depends on what Poch does with Colwill, right? Because if Colwill keeps playing at left back, well, then I think Badiashile comes in. And I don't know if it's going to be instead of Silva or Dizazi. I would hope Dizazi, and you just play Silva as the right centre back, which makes more sense anyway. But if Colwill comes into the middle and a proper left back plays left back, then I'm not sure what he's going to do. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, what I think is going to happen is that Badiashile isn't going to start games until November, because what is Poch doing now with Lavia? He's saying he needs multiple weeks of conditioning.
Well, they're saying he might not be.
What do we think happens with Badiashile?
Yeah. Well, it was saying on Lavia that he might not be ready after the international.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Has he been called? Sorry, has he been called up by Belgium? Does anyone know that? Because
no, he's not been called up by Belgium. No.
Okay. Well, then I guess at least it's a little bit more logical. I was like, Belgium are definitely calling him up, ain't they? And they're probably going to play him. But seemingly not then. Fair enough. But even still, let's please be hesitant, and let's not put all of our bloody faith in Badiashile coming back now. Badiashile has played a couple of months for us, or 4 months for us. Then he got injured, like with a few weeks left of the season. Yes, he looked good. But did we win any games? Did we keep many clean sheets with him there? Not really. So let's please not sit here and say Badiashile is going to be our Lord and Savior and going to fix all the problems that we have, because he won't. I hope he will get game time. And in an ideal world, I agree. Colwill and Thiago Silva, Badiashile and Thiago Silva. Like, you know, Colwill hasn't been 100% perfect either, but Colwill has played out of position. So before I make any judgment, I would like to see Colwill actually play at centre back, and then I would like to see Badiashile play at centre back, and then I can judge who I would prefer to play. But while Badiashile is coming back from injury, and while Colwill has played left back, I don't know who I'd like to play, honestly, bro. Because I get what you're saying in terms of potentially should be those two, but in terms of who's played the best, it's probably still Thiago Silva.
I would agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting. This is where it's annoying that we don't have those extra games to do some extra rotation, because now we're in a situation, and in a centre back particularly, you don't want to be rotating your centre back partnership on a regular basis. You want to have an established partnership and stick with it for as long as possible. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what does happen when Badiashile comes back. But I think for the long term, certainly Badiashile and Colwill is the partnership for me. Maybe Fofana gets in there potentially when he's playing football again. But you know, we could if he still carries on playing Colwill at left back, then it would be Badiashile and Silva in the middle. You'd expect, because Disasi has not been great so far. I think it's very early days for him. But yeah, you would expect him to be the one that. I
still think Chalobah's better, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit early to judge, but yeah, I mean, we kind of created an issue.
He's older than Chalobah.
We sort of created an issue for ourselves that we didn't really need to create.
Obviously, they wanted to sell Chalobah and couldn't. That's why it's an issue now. But still.
It's a strange one. By the way, people, 85 in the building, only 51 likes. Come on, guys. There's plenty of you in here that haven't smashed that like button. So make sure you do run those likes up. We should be hitting 100 likes, guys, easily. We always hit 100 likes. So yeah, let's get to work on that. It's free. It takes seconds, and it massively helps out. So please do run those likes up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. But yeah, please do run the likes up, people. Mate, in terms of sort of the forward line, then obviously Jackson's going to play the majority of the games. We've got in terms of goals, we've got to get by with what we've got now until January. This is our lot. So how do you see our goal threat evolving over the next few weeks? Because that's the big question. I mean, we've been very reliant on Sterling in the first few games. When Sterling's not particularly on it, I feel like we're just looking to him to make stuff happen. I think Cole Palmer's debut against was kind of overshadowed really because of all the furore around the defeat. I actually thought he was a real bright spark. He kind of is positive. He looked to make things happen. I'd like to see him getting a bit of a run in the side. Madueke has been okay this season so far as well. And, I'd like Mudryk to get a run in the side as well. And if we go with this 4-2-3-1, if we go Enzo Caicedo pivot, I'd like to see Madueke, Palmer play as a 10, Mudryk play on the left, and then Sterling or Madueke on the right. I think that's our best options. And we need to roll with that for 3 or 4 games and just see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe you could argue in terms of current form, if we're looking at how do we get the best results out of it, as much as I would like to play Mudryk, you might say, okay, play Sterling on the left, Madueke on the right. Yeah. Maybe that, is better because Sterling can't be dropped right now. Let's be honest. I know he wasn't great against Forest again, but he's done enough in the first few games that you're like, okay, you are starting. And then it's like, who is the other winger? And I understand why Madueke looked a bit sharp and fresher. So maybe you should go with Madueke for the time being. Fair enough. But I would like it to be Mudryk because I don't know. I just think, well, Madueke is a bit more creative than Mudryk in that sense. So maybe because Madueke beats a man and plays across rather than going for goal every time. So maybe he's a bit more suited to it, but it doesn't really matter. I think the goals. I think goals come with confidence, as weird as that sounds, and confidence comes by winning. So
and by playing.
And by playing, absolutely. So what we need to do, first of all, is one of the problems that we will have all of this autumn now is that there's an international break now. There's an international break in October, and there's an international break in November. So every time, every kind of rhythm or every kind of momentum that we could build will get ruined every time. Who knows how many more injuries we're going to get? I'm trying to touch wood and be positive that we don't get more. But let's be honest, almost every preseason, almost every international break, we get a couple of injuries or one, right? So who knows? Well, let's wait and see who that's going to hit. Let's also see what happens with Broja, right? Because if the situation with neither Madueke or Mudryk are really doing their bit, you can also try put Broja up top and let Jackson kind of come off the wing. If you want to do that, it's something to try. If you're like, okay, we need more goals. Because if you're like, okay, if Jackson because Poch explained that once, that Jackson kind of needed Nkunku. Not that Jackson can't be good without him, but that Jackson is better with Nkunku. Okay, we don't have Nkunku right now. Then play Jackson with Broja. Maybe that helps Jackson and Broja. Who knows, right? But I don't think the problem is sitting here and saying where the goal's going to come from. I think let's just play like a team that looks like it wants to play like this and looks like it knows what it's doing. And then the rest will come, in my opinion. Because Potter never provided that, playing similar players all the time, having a system that everyone is kind of happy with and agrees with, and then we go for it now. Now we have settled what we want to do. Let's go for it. That's what we need, in my opinion. We need, okay, let's play what we're going to play. Let's pick the same 13 players every time. By 13, I mean, you can change between Mudryk and Madueke. And you can, maybe change between Palmer and Chukwuemeka once he's back. Those types of things. But the rest, leave it the same. And then let them just grow. Let them do that. Because there's no benefit in now, say we play against Bournemouth, play a bit of a different system and that doesn't work. And then the game after you play a completely different 11 again. Because that's what we did last year. And you could see that there's never going to be any benefit from that. So I still think Jackson will get us goals. I think Sterling will get us goals. And I am fully of the belief, and I don't know when it will happen, but I am still fully of the belief Mudryk will end up getting us goals. We just need to actually play to what Mudryk can do. And when you play to what Mudryk can do, there's not a lot of players that can do what Mudryk can do. And then it will work. But will that happen?
I've had a sort of an interesting thought. I might have said it in Twitter or possibly or not, but I wonder, and maybe I'd like to see it. I wonder if Mudryk would benefit from having a left back behind him that doesn't get forward as much and occupy the spaces that he wants to occupy. Because Chilwell, if Mudryk's playing ahead of Chilwell, we know Chilwell likes to bomb forward and take a lot of the space that Mudryk would like to go. And I wonder if he'd be better, for example.
I mean, that's already how. If he just keeps playing Cole with a left back, there's your situation.
Yeah,
you know?
But I'm wondering, if, for example, Mudryk would actually be better if he had someone like Cucurella behind him who doesn't.
But remember Cucurella against West Ham last year, bro? When Cucurella never gave Mudryk the ball.
Pass to him, yeah. But do you know what I mean? I wonder if Mudryk would be better having a left back that isn't as.
But can I ask you a question? I've seen a lot of people talk about it. It's not just you. But how often has Mudryk actually played with Chilwell?
Well, not that often either.
So that's why I'm like, why have we come to this conclusion that they can't play together? Because how often has that even happened? Because towards the end of last season, Chilwell was injured when Mudryk played anyway. So Chilwell wasn't even there. And then earlier, before that in the season, Mudryk didn't play anyway when Chilwell played. And right now, so far this season, they haven't played together either. So it could be true that Mudryk struggles with that a little bit, but we haven't even seen it yet. So how about we try it first,
Yeah. I mean,
or rather than that, it's about overlapping. Use Martin, who is comfortable at coming inside, because that's what he did at Burnley, didn't he? He played left back, but actually kind of came narrow, not in the back three, but came narrow in midfield, and then allows the winger to stay wide rather than the left back being the one that creates the width and the winger coming inside. Because Mudryk is certainly better staying wide. I agree with that. But I don't even think we can say yet. I feel like Mudryk has played more with Cucurella than he has with Chilwell. So I would first actually like to see him play with Chilwell, because these kids, shouldn't say that for Chilwell, but these guys also need to adapt to each other. You know what you touched on earlier. Imagine no matter what kind of branch of work you're in, you have a company and you bring 20 new guys in. But not just that, we changed the entire fitness staff, we changed the entire coaching staff, we changed the entire medical staff. All of it's different. It's not 20 new people, it's probably 70 new people.
I mean, do you just on that? I mean, slight side tangent, but do you look? I like what the owners are doing. They've come in, they just want to change things quickly. Do you think? I mean, it's hard. It's going to be hard to quantify this, and we're probably never going to know. Yeah. But look, the squad overhaul, long overdue. It's been done. Great. We got rid of so many players. I didn't think we'd get rid of the amount of players we did. I didn't think we'd get the prices of some of the players that we did. Fantastic job there. Do you think, though, that potentially, I'm not just talking about the personnel, but do you think they've changed too much too quickly? Do you think some of these changes would have been better gradually? Right. I mean, I haven't got too much of an issue with the overhaul happening quickly, because that's been needed to happen for a number of years. I think we probably bought in too many players at once, but I guess we're just maybe not cutting corners as such, but we're doing 3 or 4 windows work in 2. But fine. Okay, I don't have a huge issue with that. But I'm talking in terms of structurally, the ins and outs of the clubs, the day-to-day staff. Do you think they've changed too much too quickly?
Bro, 1000%. I understand. I'm not even as fully backing the overhaul. I get it. But it seems like neither the club nor the fans understand what impacts, that has, right? You can't change a whole squad and expect it to work from the first go. That's not going to happen. You need a season, maybe 2. For me, we should have done one of 2 things. Either you do the squad overhaul and leave the backroom staff the same for a season or 2. Manager, you can maybe talk about what the whole situation. If Tuchel didn't really work with them, it is what it is. But the medical staff, the rest of the fitness staff, all the other stuff, do the squad overhaul and leave those the same. Or what I would have preferred, change the back room, but leave the squad for a little bit the same, or do it gradually, right? Don't sign 6 players in January, 15 players in the summer, and another 15 players the next summer. No, we didn't sign 15 players last summer. But even still, to me, you can't yes, there needs to be an overhaul, and the owners want to change, but to do backroom staff, and by that I mean physios, medical staff, fitness staff, coaching staff, and squad, to change all of it all at the same time, how is that going to work? And honestly, if you told me that in let's say May 2022, when we knew it would be Clear Lake Capital, but it wasn't through yet, but we still knew it was going to be them. If you told me back then what they are going to plan to do is change the whole squad and change the whole backroom staff, I would have told you there and then that until 2025, we're going to win fuck all. And when I say win fuck all, I don't even mean the Premier League or a league or a cup. By that, I mean we're going to win fuck all games. We're going to be lucky every time we win back-to-back games. And that's what it's been like. And I know that obviously you can say I'm a smart ass now with hindsight, but think about it. Think about changing the whole squad and every bit of backroom staff all in the space of 12 months. What, has any club ever done that? No. And why? Because it's not a good idea.
It is unprecedented, you know. It is. We don't do things by halves at Chelsea. It's basically it's all in or it's nothing, and we have gone massively all in.
Can I just say one more thing? It's like this will, or I can't be too sure anymore because the more and more bad things happen, the less certainty I can have. But I still think we will eventually be very successful.
I think we will as well. I just don't know
when. Exactly, but that's my issue. Did the owners calculate for? Are we ready to not be in the Champions League for another season, or are we then fucked financially?
I think a lot of this spending is on the basis of that we need to qualify for the Champions League for the next.
But realistically, with this squad this season, I don't think you can be sure of it. Like we can.
You can't be sure of it. Absolutely not. No way. You can't be sure of it at all. It's going to be
that's why it's risky business.
It is risky business because the Premier League's not like it was. You know, now you look at it, you've got. Dare I say, Spurs under Big Ange look like it could be half decent.
Mate, but I tell you, if Ange joined us, we'd be playing Cole at left back.
Yeah, Big Ange and Spurs are doing all right. You know, you've got Newcastle's, you've got Villas, you've got Brightons, you've got Brentford's, you've got all these teams, right? Liverpool coming back, Arsenal, United, City. You know, you've got all these teams. It's really competitive now, and that's
at least Newcastle and United have also had a bad start.
Yeah, but it's really competitive, which is why if you want to get back in those Champions League places, I know it's only in the first 4 games, but you cannot afford to lose games at home against the likes of Nottingham Forest. You can't do that,
and you also can't lose to West Ham when you have a penalty at 1-1.
Yeah. We have to get in. For me, mate, we have to qualify for the Champions League. I'm not saying we can't do it because we're 4 games in. It's ridiculous to say, we can't do it 4 games in. But at the same time, you know, I look at it and you've got to be thinking, well, like this is going to be a really tough ask now. It's going to be a really tough ask if we're gonna get in that Champions League. But I mean, I don't worry so much about our away form. I actually think we could be better suited to playing away from home, which is kind of weird. But mate, how the sort of the deterioration of our home form is quite concerning to me. It used to be an absolute fortress.
Bro, both of us went through like our teens with Chelsea never losing
80 odd games unbeaten.
Yeah, I think 86 home. Was it? Like from 2004 to 2008, we never lost a home game
in the league. But like now, last 2 or 3 years, home form has been dreadful. And like almost as soon as we go a goal down at home, like you're like, we're not going to win this game. No, like the best we're going to get is a draw. I mean, why do you think the home form's so bad? And do you think we can turn it around this season? Because there's no point saying, we're just going to pick points up on the road. We're going to need to get a decent chunk of points at home as well. And it doesn't really look like on evidence right now that's going to happen.
No, and I think also there too many changes have happened. You know, it's like now I'm not sure if you even clocked this, but we changed sides of the dugout.
Dugouts, yeah.
So okay, so that is unnecessary. What change does that do? Like apparently it's the bigger dugout, but then I'm like, why the fuck would we have ever used the smaller dugout before? Are we idiots? I mean, I don't understand this at all. But in terms of confidence, it's confidence because it's habit, right? This squad, especially because all of them have kind of joined since. A couple of them last year, but otherwise January and this summer, and even the ones before that, Chilwell, Reece James, even they aren't used to winning regularly at Stamford Bridge. So not one team, not one player in this whole squad is used to winning regular at Stamford Bridge, except maybe fucking Raheem Sterling when he played for City. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, not one of them is used to winning at Stamford Bridge. So how to fix winning at Stamford Bridge is by winning at Stamford Bridge. And I know that's ridiculous, but that's the only way. It's just we need to fight through it and eventually it can go. But we need to also kind of change the approach. Like, I'm like, at some point, just start peppering with shots. Just start shooting like an absolute madman and make sure when you have 21 attempts that not only 2 get on target. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just start shooting. I think not every club has a great goalie. Just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. If you need to. I'm not saying that should be tactic number 1. Big up Oli, by the way. I'm not saying that's tactic number 1. But if you have to, fucking start shooting. If you are like, okay, we can't break this low block down, rather than playing cross after cross after cross that no one is getting on the end of, put it in the middle and just fucking hit it. You might get a handball penalty. You might get, you get more corners that you could potentially score from. You could get free kicks. You could also deflected goals. Just fucking make it happen. And
we don't have enough players that are prepared to shoot. Even on Saturday,
no, but they are. Just tell them to do it.
But even on Saturday, though, like the amount of times where we could have had a shot, but we tried to knock it sideways, or you just put a ball into the box that he's just going to get headed clear.
But why though, right? Because the crowd, the fans, I don't know if the management, but everyone gets on their backs when they don't score. So they're like, oh, if I don't score, I'd rather lay it off because then they can't get criticized. So that's the.
But, I mean, the low block thing though, like obviously at home it's more of a problem, but I don't know why we can't break low block teams down, particularly at home. Like it doesn't seem to matter what we do, unless we get in front in a game. Then and that low block they have to come out a bit more, and it changes the way the game goes. Like we 100% need to shoot on sight more, absolutely, for all the reasons that you've said. And thankfully, in Cole Palmer, he is someone that does have an eye for goal, and he is someone that will have a shot. Yeah. But like, I don't know what the answer is to breaking down these low blocks at home, because if I had it, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But,
what? One thing to add to that as well, I think, like, I'm not saying we're bad at playing out from the back, but when we play, what we don't do, we never try to suck teams in. What City and even Brighton do that.
We didn't move it fast enough.
Yeah, no, of course, that is a whole separate issue. But keep the ball in our own half for longer, but not slow pass. And I know against Forest that's difficult because they don't even want to press. But not every team is like Forest, and we have issues against many more teams than Forest. Invite them to press, invite them to come at us, drop deep, but not in a sense of that I want us to play deep, but drop deep to drag them out. And then we actually need to have the quality to play through them and be quick, because that's how you beat them. That's how you beat a low block. You drag them out because you think, okay, we're not going to come anywhere near them anyway. But that's the problem. It never works once they go a goal up, because once they are a goal up, they have no impotence. They have no need to ever come out. In my opinion, we should pass it around, but further back. Ever since Tuchel and Conte, we passed around the back three. But the back three stood at the edge of halfway line. That's never going to do anything. Pass it back with the goalies, with the back four. The DMs drop deep and let them come. And then we need to have the quality, play through them, and then you have space all of a sudden. And then your players like your Maduekes, your Mudriks, your Jacksons, your Palmers that have pace, that have quality, can actually show that quality. Mate, if you're not Eden Hazard or Neymar, you're not going to do anything against three defenders in front of you. Who do you think? Who do fans think our players are?
But this is the real frustrating thing for me is we get on the ball, right, and just using Saturday as an example because it's the most recent memory of it. We get on the ball and what you don't want to do is allow a team to get back into shape. Good. And
we have 75% possession every game and do nothing.
Yeah, but what I mean is we don't move it fast enough, and then no one seems to be. I don't care if you give the ball away if you're trying to make something happen, but I think too many players are going for the safe option every time. Every time going for the safe option, they'd rather than try a ball over the top or a diagonal or try and thread a through ball or whatever it is. They'd rather pass it sideways or just go for the 5-yard pass. I don't know if players are playing within themselves. I don't know if they're scared of doing something wrong. I will never have a go at a player for trying something. If it doesn't come off, at least you tried it.
This is what Marco Corella died from. He tried to defend aggressively, gets murdered by the fan base every time. Tries to play an aggressive out ball from the back, gets intercepted, gets murdered every time. This, what you're talking about, maybe applies to you in terms of all of the players, but in terms of the general fan base, what you're talking about only applies to midfielders and attackers. But the problem is to draw a low block out. The defenders need to do it. And we have, Jex has said, we don't have the quality to do it. I disagree. Cobel has the quality to do this. Enzo has the quality to do this. Caicedo has the quality to do this. Now, Chile maybe doesn't, but that's why we actually signed 60 million Cucurella, because that's what he could be good at, but we don't do it. And that's why he's looked like the worst signing in history for the last 18 months or 12 months and a bit, because we don't do the one thing he's good at. And yes, we shouldn't have paid 60 million pounds for a player that's only good at one thing. But then if you don't even do that one thing, how stupid are you to buy him for that much money in the first place? Because we have, in my opinion, the quality to play out from the back and not a problem. But we don't even do it. Like I touched on, we have so much possession, but it's always around the halfway line. When you're around the halfway line, all 11 players of the opponent are in their half. How are you ever going to break that down?
This is why like stats are so misleading, particularly with possession. Like I don't care necessarily that much about possession.
No.
I want
us to have more than 50%.
Yeah, but I want possession.
I don't even want 75.
I want possession in the important areas. I don't care of that 75 possession. If 60% of that possession is just us knocking it about between our defenders, that's useless. Like I'm interested in the possession in the areas of the pitch that matter. How much possession are we having in the opposition third? Like what are we doing? And look, I don't want this to come across as in like bashing Chelsea. And I don't believe in this manager. I don't believe in the project. That those things aren't true. I back this manager. I back this project. I do believe in these players, but it's also perfectly acceptable to highlight issues and what are we going to do about them. That you should be allowed to do that as a fan without being criticised and without saying, without people saying, oh, why are you so impatient? Why are you not believing? Why are you not allowing time to do its things? Like, no, I am. I understand that these things take time. I understand it's going to be difficult to gel all these players at the same time. And it's a really tough job for Pochettino, but that doesn't excuse certain issues that we are experiencing right now that aren't just Pochettino issues. They are Chelsea issues, and they have been for a number of years. This is like we've changed the whole personnel, and the same issues are still there. We can't break down low blocks, and we can't score goals.
Yeah, no, you're right, bro. You're right. But you know how you've said you kind of believe in the project. Do you believe in the whole project? Because there's things that I don't believe in. I don't believe in basically signing any of these youngsters that we've signed.
You don't like any of them?
No, not because I don't like them as players, but because I don't understand the idea. Because
so how many of them would you have signed? Like if it was would you sign one or two?
A third of them?
Yeah,
like so any of them that aren't with the squad now, I don't understand their point.
Oh, right. Like, those development
yeah,
ones.
Because that's what we spent 200 million on. Like that's to me part of the project is that. Because you have Caicedo 21, you have Enzo 22, you have Lavia 19, you have Ugo Chukwu 19, and you have Gallagher 23.
And Santos 19.
And who?
Santos.
Yeah, but he's alone out, right?
Well, no, he got Casadei as well out on loan.
And exactly, and Casadei on loan, and you've got others. Who am I forgetting?
Angelo's out on loan as well.
Yeah, of course. Right, but and even this other kid that Alex Goldberg seemed to have asked about that plays at Club Bruges, who we didn't get, but we were interested. I'm like, how are you going to have the 5 midfielders at the club currently, and you want to add Chukwuemeka to that as well, 6 that he's 20?
We haven't even got enough loan spots for them all.
Exactly. Not every single one of these 5 or 6 midfielders at the club is sub 23. Yeah, when are these other players ever going to come in? Well, so what is? And I understand you sell them for profit, but you don't need 15 to sell them for profit.
But that's the problem, right? For me, and this inevitably, I'd love to be wrong, but this to me only leads to one thing. It just leads to a complete bottleneck at Chelsea. You're signing players all of the same age that are all going to need minutes to develop, but they're all taking the minutes off each other.
Like exactly. But Kel says we signed that 15-year-old from Ecuador, but at least he's an attacker. At least he's an attacker in a different position because all the others are midfielders.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer. I don't know what the answer to that question is really. Like, the obvious answer is the hope is that some make it, and the rest that don't make it are going to be good enough to sell for a profit. That's what we're doing. We're stockpiling talent in the hope that some of them work, but others will be good enough to go and have a career elsewhere, and we make a decent chunk of money on them. That's what we're hoping for. But again, I don't know what the plan is. Obviously, we're going to add more. You'd like to think we're going to add more clubs to the multi-club model. We need to have more places to send these guys on loan and have more players, more spots available to develop these guys and be more in control of the developments. But I don't know. Like, for example, Cole Palmer, mate. Do you think that signing was necessary? Because I'm seeing certain views, people saying, "Oh, did we need to sign him? Did we need to get another attacker?" I was of the opinion we absolutely did need to get another attacker. Did we need someone else? Was he on my radar? Absolutely not. I don't think any Chelsea fans were really expecting Cole Palmer to be that name when it came out. But you look at Palmer, for example. Do you think that was necessary? Do you think we should have gone for a different profile or someone else?
Well, necessary in terms of because of the injuries, we needed another player. Yeah, that was necessary because of injuries.
Yeah.
But do I think the problem in itself is that we're only signing players under 25? Yeah, that's the problem. Like, Riyad Mahrez left Man City. We should have been all over that. Like other players that okay, we might not have been able to compete with the Saudi money, and he would have preferred that after years at City. He might not wanted to come to us. And that doesn't mean Palmer can't be good. He absolutely may be. But the problem is he won't be right now. He won't be good enough to shoot us to top 4. And it won't be him. And it won't be Madueke. It won't this season be Mudryk. It's going to be Sterling and somehow maybe Jackson. It's not going to be the others.
So we're essentially,
the fans still expect top 4 though. So
I did tip the top 4 finish at the start. I'm not going to change.
As did I, bro. But that's we're confident. Like we want to back our team. Like that doesn't mean
I'm not going to flip flop and change my mind now. But it is looking like a tricky task. Like a really tough task at the moment.
But I predicted it before, seeing that we're going to play Chilwell at left wing all the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I don't think anyone predicted that. But there is a problem. Like, and I do get the point is that, like, how long is it going to take for these players to come good? That's
especially all at the same time. Like they're not learning off someone older that's going to bring them in.
This is exactly my point as well. Is that, like, it's fine to have a few of these. I'm not necessarily saying this is wrong, by the way. This is just some reservations about it. I'm not saying this is wrong. This could, in a couple of years, turn out to be amazing. I mean, look back on this, I think we were totally wrong. Fine. Yeah. But, like, there are legitimate concerns within the approach we're doing. They're not learning off anyone. They're all developing at the same time. They're all new to the league, pretty much. And, people say Palmer's played in the Prem. Yeah, that 5 games or whatever it is. But do you know what I mean? Like,
we're playing more than Mudryk, though.
Yeah, no, he's played more than Mudryk. But I don't necessarily think age is the issue, because if you're old enough, you're good enough. Like, do you know what I mean?
To a certain extent, don't you think?
The experience, though, is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
How many senior games have these guys played that we've signed? All right, Madueke was at PSV Eindhoven, fine, but Mudryk
mostly injured.
Mudryk, not a lot of games. A handful of games to Shakhtar. Granted, they've done well, but the step up from Ukraine to England, huge. And then you're looking at people like who else have we signed? Jackson's had what, a season at Villarreal?
He was about to go to Bournemouth, mate.
He was about to go to Bournemouth, yeah. So we've
failed the medical. Do you know what I mean?
He failed the medical. We just got
exactly that. You make the good question. How long is it going to take? Because is it
going to take? How long is it going to take?
I think it's going to take longer than a year.
Well, I think it is as well. And the fact that they're not really learning off anyone is
only having Sterling, who seems like a lovely guy, but isn't in terms of like, and takes people under their wing. Everyone, like especially Cole Palmer said he did that at City, and Madueke said he did that at Chelsea. So he seems to be good for that. But is he going to be the guy that's going to teach them he seems like off the pitch, quite a laid back, chill guy, like your mate, like your friend, rather than like someone that's going to push you to develop and be better, And people say we need more Thiago Silvas. Now, see, I disagree with that completely. Not someone that's 39. You need a few that are 28, 30. That's what you need. People that have the top of their game.
I mean, not all. I don't even necessarily think age. I just think more game, just more experience in terms of
you're right, obviously. Yeah, in terms of having won things, having been successful, having a Pedro, like
But
at the time, obviously not Pedro now.
But we don't make those signings now. This is not what we're going to do anymore. Like,
I agree, and that's why we can't expect too much.
well, this is it. But then, like, we say all this, and then as fans, when we lose a game, we'll be the first ones to sort of moan about it. And it's only natural sort of in the heat of the moment to do that. But I think these are legitimate questions to be asking that how long is this going to take to come good? Because
exactly. And then think about this as well. We're going to build a new stadium at some point. Apparently, we're building in the same spot. So with all of what we're having to deal with right now, we're also going to have to be playing in a different home stadium. Although arguably that could probably help us with how bad the home form is at the French. So maybe that's going to be a good thing anyway. Imagine we play at Wembley. The pitch is so massive, we're going to be flying.
well, mate, quite possibly. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I don't know. Look, the fact now as well, mate, we got the youngest squad in the league. Average age now, I think, is like just over.
I think 22 and a half or whatever.
It's like, and the average age of the new signings is 20.5.
Yeah, but obviously that includes all of the players that. I think that even includes like the Paez and that other kid that would only join us in 2024.
We haven't signed anyone over apart from Nkunku, who arrived. We obviously agreed to sign him back in November or whatever. Yeah. If you remove him, we've signed no one over 23.
Sanchez is 25, I think, but otherwise,
Disasi, sorry. Oh, and Sanchez as well.
Yeah. So it's 3, but still, and none of those 3 are good enough.
No, well, I
mean, Nkunku, but Sanchez not really good enough. Disasi not really good enough. Like in terms of what we really actually need.
I mean, just to round this out, mate. On the window itself, do you feel like we addressed the areas that needed addressing? We got Enzo Fernandez as a midfield partner. I think that actually. We've addressed. I think I'm happy with the midfield. I'll be honest. It's going to take some time to gel, but I'm happy with Lavia. I'm happy with Caicedo. I'm happy with Enzo. I think we've got. I think that's good. Even though
it depends on the system.
Even though I got hammered for saying that I'm happy with Caicedo, but I would have preferred Rice. Got battered for that yesterday when I tweeted that out. But anyway, regardless of that, I mean, I'm happy with the midfield rebuild. Gusto, obviously, we signed him in January. Great. Martin's come back or whatever, great. Disasi, did we really need him? Maybe not. But that's kind of neither here nor there. It's not going to be a signing that makes a difference to our season per se. But look at the other areas and you think Jackson, okay, good. You got other ones in terms of, the likes of, I mean, who else would be signed? Cole Palmer, I think would be good. But yeah, look, we have. Do you think we've addressed what we needed to address? Like, obviously, I understand I'd rather us not buy a centre forward if we don't see the right profile on the market. I'd rather that than us just buy someone for the sake of it, just to appease people. But yeah, do you think? And do you look at the window and think it's good, but do you think we've left ourselves short? And do you think there are areas where you're like, I'd like a few more options there?
I don't even know how to word my response to this because my answer is we've not addressed all areas, but we created the lacking of areas ourselves by selling everyone, other than a striker because we didn't have anyone there beforehand either. So, right? But everywhere else, we kind of created it for ourselves, the lacking that we have. Like, what I'm trying to say? Like, I agree with you on the midfield, but also depends on the formation. If we're going to play a 4-3-3, I'm not actually that happy with the midfield because I'm like, none of them are a goal threat. If you play them as a double pivot all the time and you rotate those 3, it's amazing. I don't understand the need for Lavia because without Champions League, when are you ever going to leave Enzo or Caicedo out? Which tells me Enzo is probably going to play higher, which I'm like, well, he doesn't have enough goal threat for that. So I'm not even sure if I'm that much of a fan. Just leave the midfield aside. The midfield is good.
I think the midfield's good, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Defense, Disasi, unnecessary. Could have just kept Chalobah.
I think defense fine anyway.
Yeah, defense, I agree, but Disasi was a complete waste of money. Not because he's bad, but because he just was not necessary.
Wasn't necessary. I agree. Chalobah could have done that job.
Exactly.
I'm not hating on Disasi.
Disasi isn't even taller than Chalobah. People talk about him in the air.
We didn't
even taller. He's just wider.
Yeah, we didn't need him, but I'm not hating on him. But we didn't.
It's not his fault, is it?
No. But in terms of the goalkeeper, now I think no one expected Real Madrid to come in for Kepa. Obviously,
us as fans, we don't have to expect it. But I expect the club, the recruitment team, to do. Obviously, Courtois' injuries is different, but Bayern wanted him before that. Yeah. Bayern wanted Neuer's injury was clear. So I don't think the club did enough due diligence in trying to find a club for Kepa.
Mate, do you think, I mean, it's too early to talk on Sanchez, but it's clear that, I mean, I said this at the time. I said it at the time that Sanchez is going to be Chelsea's number one goalkeeper. I got a bit of stick for it because
But at the time, before Kepa left.
Yeah,
because I disagree. I think if Kepa was still here, Kepa would play every game
No,
right now. Maybe
no, I
as the
agree.
season goes on, it would change. But
I agree Kepa would have started. But in terms of the long term, I think
do you
Sanchez
still think that now, having seen Sanchez play?
Yeah, no.
Really?
Well, in terms of the first few games, obviously it's too early to judge. But I actually think he's that. I think he's the long term. I think he's that long term number one. Now,
good luck winning anything with that.
Yeah, but you look at it, right? Do you think we should have done more in the goalkeeping department? The amount of money we spent, the 200 million you talk about in terms of those development signings, do we think that we should have gone more in on a elite goalkeeper per se? Someone. I'm not saying we're going to get Manyan, but why did we suddenly pull out of Onana?
Is Onana better? I don't know, but he's had a few howlers already, and he's only 4 games into the season. Yeah. But or the main thing I wouldn't have done is buy 2 not good enough ones. It's one thing not having finished the goalkeeping department in this summer. That's one thing, but having bought 2 new ones on 7-year contracts each limits us to ever getting a new one in the next years.
Well,
that's the problem.
Petrovic is quite decent. I mean, I've never.
He's playing the MLS, bro. Come on.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Messi goes there, and he's not even trying.
Football, yeah.
And they all look like children. Like Jordi Alba, Busquets. They're both old. They both can't be bothered for anything, and they look like literally prime Ashley Cole, prime Busquets himself, and prime Messi. They are 35.
Yeah,
the MLS I cannot be taken seriously. Like Inter Miami hadn't won a single game all season until those 3 turned up.
They're decent.
They went to the champion of last season, LAFC, and they battered them 3-0.
Yeah,
they battered them. What do you mean MLS goalie? He was good. I don't give a shit. It's like buying a League One goalie. Do you know what I mean? He might be good. I don't know. I've never seen him play football.
Oh, yeah, but on
Chelsea Football Club.
On the keepers, you think we should have pushed the boat out and spent reasonably big on another one?
Yeah, but I understand also that was difficult this summer.
I actually don't think Sanchez. Sorry, mate. I actually don't think Sanchez at 20 million is a bad signing. I'm just not sure.
Think about the fact that Brighton didn't want him, and
yeah,
we still paid 20 million.
I don't think that was due to footballing reasons. I think that was more of a falling out.
But we also didn't want all the players that we sold for footballing reasons anymore necessarily. And so, did we get 20 million for any of them? No.
I mean, to be honest, mate, I look at it and I just think I think in isolation that's a half decent signing in terms of if that was going to be a backup goalkeeper, right? 20 million, 20 million,
an unnecessarily expensive backup goalkeeper. You could have bought like Onana and Petrovic.
Yeah, could have done that. I mean, look, I hear it. Only time will tell if this signing is going to be good enough. But I guess, mate,
I mean, he's made as many mistakes in the first 4 games as Kepa did last season.
Yeah, no, look,
maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but he's not far off. The pass is out from the back. He's already played 3 to the opponent. How many did Kepa do last year? Not 3.
I mean, he has looked a bit shaky. I mean, what I would say,
thrown it against the back of an opponent because he couldn't throw it far enough.
I mean, what I would say is, if it being slightly in his defence, is he's not played. He hasn't played a lot of football until right now. I don't think anyone's just on this. No one's saying players aren't good enough. It's just an open conversation that I don't think Chelsea fans would have expected Robert Sanchez to be their the number one goalkeeper. But
because this applies to Petrovic, that's fair enough because I haven't seen him play.
Yeah, but maybe it does.
I know everyone disagrees with, or most people disagree with me, but I said from the get-go, I don't think Sanchez is any better than Kepa. I didn't necessarily think he was worse than Kepa, but I think it was even. So what is the whole point of the signing? That was my question. That doesn't mean that Sanchez is necessarily an awful player, but I also didn't think Kepa was an awful player. I know I'm one of the few that sits like that. I understand that.
Well, I don't think Kepa was anywhere near as bad as people made out.
No, exactly. But fact of the matter is still, we haven't improved on the goalkeeper. So what was the whole point in getting rid of 2 and buying 2 new ones when it's no better? What was the point in that?
No, mate.
Arguably, we've made it worse.
No,
you could have also said teach Mendy to be good with the ball at his feet, rather than because he was good at all the other things. Maybe we could have taught him. But also one thing I want to add, I put this in our group chat the other day. we don't even play. Sanchez doesn't even really play it out difficultly anyway.
No, to be fair, I
don't even play out. You might as well get De Gea on a free because we don't even play out from the back.
On this though, do you think eventually we are facing Slonina? Not Bergström, but I mean more in Slonina. Do you think they signed him based on the fact that they think this guy maybe in 4 or 5 years could be a number one goalkeeper?
I mean, yeah, and then what happens for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, yeah, well, this is this is all. These are all fair points, but I mean, I guess last point, mate, is like, do you still feel positive, like sort of surrounding Chelsea? I know there's issues, and I know there's teething issues, all these players and whatnot. But do you still retain a sense of positive? I still feel positive. It doesn't feel anything like last season for me at this point in time. We are only 4 games in.
At this point in time last season, we still had Tuchel, bro.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah. But I mean, look,
I felt better at this point last season than I do now.
But do you see what positives have you taken from the first 4 games?
Enzo.
Yeah. That
Enzo. That's kind of it. I know Enzo and Colwill, even though he's played out of position, I'm still as a whole, I'm very impressed with Colwill. I like Colwill a lot. He's almost like a new signing, so that's made me happy.
Yeah.
And Gusto, and a little bit of a glimmer of hope that we might get to see the real Raheem Sterling at Chelsea still.
Yeah.
Those 4 things are my pieces of hope. Everything else is kind of not great. Because we've not played the other players that I'm excited to see. Oh, and Jackson. I forgot about Jackson. Sorry. Jackson.
I think he surprised a lot of people.
Yeah. But has he surprised me to the extent that I think our fan base will be happy with him as number 9 long term? No chance. No chance.
Yeah, I mean...
Not our fan base.
Not our fan base, yeah.
I don't think he will ever score 20 Premier League goals a season. Well, maybe ever is harsh, but I don't feel like he's that.
I don't think not in the next 3 years. I wouldn't have thought.
No, exactly.
But then again, who is scoring 20 Premier League goals a season? There's very
fucking Ireland is.
Yeah, but very few players are doing that. Do you know what I mean? There's hardly any. Like realistically, if you look at the Premier League right now, other than Erling Haaland, who can you say is going to score 20 league goals? I can't give you a single.
But that's it.
Maybe Salah. I can't give you a single other name that's going to score.
You're right on that. Yeah. So, especially now that Kane's left.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's I think it's on Jackson. I think Jackson will score goals eventually.
Yeah, but I still like Jackson. I'm happy we got him.
Yeah.
No. But as a whole, it's like I want to see Mudryk. I want to see Madueke. I want to see Caicedo and Enzo in a double pivot. I don't want to see. Another positive, by the way, Gallagher. But
he's been good.
Positive to a certain level.
Yeah.
He's still not good enough for us to challenge Man City.
Yeah, a positive in terms of a positive compared to what we expected from him.
Yeah, no, exactly that. But as the biggest disappointment to me, I think we were all really excited by Poch in pre-season. And in the first 4 games, Poch has almost been the most disappointing bit about the whole thing. Because the fact that he's playing Chilwell at left wing, Colwill at left back, the subs come too late, the subs make no sense, the subs seem rash. Like the subs against Forest just made no sense. No sense.
I thought they were a bit late.
Mudryk at right centre back at one point.
Yeah, I felt. I think they're a bit late in my opinion. But look, there's a long way to go in this season for sure. I'm not writing this season off at all.
Me neither. I still think we can come good, but with the injuries, man, it's just so hard and difficult and.
It is tough. Like it's never easy. We never like to do things the easy way. But
I'm really looking forward to playing better teams where the expectation will be a bit different. You know, where the expectation isn't okay. We need to blow them away, and otherwise it's not going to be good.
I mean, I'm not even bothered about blowing teams away. I just want to win. I don't care if we're blowing.
Yeah, but see against Luton, if we won that game 1-0, no one would have been happy.
No,
that's what I mean.
That's
so
fair.
like when you and they say like even if we scraped a 2-1 win at the end against Forest, we would have been happy because we turned it around. But everyone would still be saying we were playing bad. So unless you beat Forest 3-0, no one's happy. So that's why I'm looking forward to playing slightly better teams. I can't believe Thomas Bay is talking about is Mudryk the biggest problem, and then he's talking about Mitrovic's stats in the Saudi league. All right. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck?
Yeah, no.
The team that Benzema plays for. I watched the highlights of their game. The other day, and their best player Ain't even one of the new players. Benzema, dreadful. Kante, dreadful. Who was that other attacker that they had? He was dreadful as well. Yeah, he was dreadful. And their best player was Ahmed.
Musa?
No, Ahmed Halal, something like that. I forget his name exactly. He was their best player. Would you none of these European players that go there take it seriously at all? Sorry, I shouldn't get into the Saudi league. But it's like the MLS can't take it seriously, man.
No, it's a mad one. But mate, I actually after the international break, mate, we've got obviously Bournemouth away, then we've got Villa at home, we've got Brighton in the Carabao Cup, and we've got Fulham away and Burnley away before the next international break. You look at those fixtures. I know it's obviously quite a tough ask, but what are you expecting? Let's go through the league ones very briefly. We've got Bournemouth away, Villa at home, Fulham away, and Burnley away as our 4 games. From those, we've got 3 away from home, 1 at home. What do you think we need to be doing? I think we've got to win 3. I think we've got to win 3 of those 4 games.
So Bournemouth, Villa,
Fulham
and Burnley. And we got the cup game against Brighton.
We've got a cup game against Brighton in between.
Yeah. Well, it depends on judging by what,
Well, just generally speaking, we have to win 3 of those games, I think, minimum.
Yeah, I mean, we should be winning all 4 games, really. But I know we won't win all 4 games. We beat Bournemouth even last season.
Mate, Frank managed to do it.
Exactly. If Poch doesn't win at Bournemouth, there will be a lot of people saying Poch out. I had to tell you it.
Right, by the way, I think this was the geezer you were referring to.
Hamdallah, maybe. Yeah. But I swear on his shirt it said Ahmed something. But I was just reading the name of the back of his shirt. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whichever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, so if Poch doesn't beat Bournemouth, so we need to beat Bournemouth. Villa at home.
Tough.
I can already tell you we're not winning.
Brighton.
I'm not sure if we will lose, but we're not winning. I mean, I hope we do, but I just don't feel like it. At the same time, Liverpool all of a sudden beat them 3-0. So
and then Brighton in the cup.
Brighton in the cup.
Tough.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
And Fulham away, tough as well.
And Brighton, I feel like we could go through, but on penalties or something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Fulham away, not winning that. Burnley away, we will win that. So I think we will get between 6 and 8 points.
Yeah, from 12.
Yeah, but we should get 9 at least.
Yeah, we should be. I honestly think, even at this early stage of the season, if we get less than 6 points, if we don't win 3 of those games, I already think the top 4.
We can already say goodbye to Champions League.
I think the Champions League becomes a big problem already at this early stage of the season if we don't pick up 3 wins from the next 4. It might sound ridiculous to some people, but yeah, it is what it is, really, isn't it? That's the reality of the situation. But yeah, probably to round it out. I've been going an hour and a half. Didn't realize it's been going that long. But yeah, guys, it's not all doom and gloom. Things will get better. I feel like I said that last season a lot, but things are getting better. There are positives. We just need a little bit of time. We need some patience. And
can I say one last thing? One thing that we also need, and I know we're super critical, and you and me included, I don't even want to throw you under the bus too. I'm also very critical, sometimes overly critical, right? I'm totally aware of that. We're just emotional fans and then when I talk myself almost into rage, I'm like, there's this to complain about and this to complain about.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. But another thing that we are lacking is luck. And I don't know if we're served hard karma for American owners trying to ruin football, but we need a bit of luck. We need a bit of less injuries, a ball going in, like those things. That's what's also stopping us. And I know you can't buy that. You can't get that. You can't guarantee it. But one day, and I don't know when, but at one stage, our luck needs to change.
Yeah. No, we have been unlucky.
Yeah, we have been but also last season. Like, not just now. We've been unlucky a lot. And yeah, the system sucks. Absolutely. But Sterling could score in the first minute on Saturday. Enzo could take his penalty against West Ham. Also, the West Ham player encroached. VAR didn't make us retake the penalty. Those things are all going against us. The constant injuries, Reece constantly being injured, Nkunku being injured,
Yeah.
Chukwuemeka being injured, Mudryk not being fully fit all through the season. Like, if those things didn't happen, we'd be in a much better position. But unfortunately, they are happening to us, and we're all kind of stuck in the mind that, but do we want to give us these excuses? But do we not? Because it's been going on for so long now that we can't really rely on the excuses anymore. But they're still, in a way, all valid, and it's tiring as a fan.
I also don't want to make another excuse here, but I'm gonna make it anyway. We haven't actually played our best team yet. Because we've got no Nkunku, and we've got no Reece James either yet. So we actually haven't even seen what is supposedly going to be our best team yet. Now, this is not an excuse. I'm just purely stating that before the season started, we had an idea what our best team was going to be. Yep. We haven't seen our best team yet. So we don't really know how good our team is. And I think that's the problem in itself, that we don't really know what we're going to get from this team. Because there's so many unknowns in it, you've got no idea what you're going to get. 1 week, you might get something amazing. The next week, you could get something totally shit, because that's what happens with young players. Sometimes good, sometimes shit, as Gattuso said. So,
the problem is when it's good, we need to actually win.
Yeah, that's also true.
Because it was good, for example, against Liverpool, but we still didn't win. I know it's because of the opponent, but still. If we play well and then get a draw, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. But yeah, now we'll round this one out here, guys. Big up yourselves. Thanks so much for tuning in as always. Make sure on the way out, guys, you run the likes up. I haven't mentioned it too many times tonight, but make sure you run the likes up. We need 25 more likes to hit 100 likes. That should be light work on the way out. So please do smash a like. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Lawrence, thanks for your time as always, bro. Greatly appreciated. The people don't know what you do, which I'm sure most of them do, but if they don't, where should they be going?
Check out my channel. Lawrence Vescali is just my name. I'm sure it's somewhere.
Yeah, it's in the description. It's added in the description. Just click that, takes you there. Make sure you subscribe.
Exactly. Check that out. Check out my Twitter as well for my thoughts that I don't necessarily always put in streams. But yeah, appreciate the support, and make sure you subscribe to Charlie.
Yeah, guys, make sure you do that. People, I'll be back tomorrow night. New show, little London club show, Arsenal, Chelsea, and a few others on there. So make sure you tune in for that tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, and up the Chelsea.